More spurts of unusually hot weather lasting for days, increasing the lengths of time between rains and other drought conditions, and more severe weather. All of that is a product of climate change. This week is Earth Week, leading up to Earth Day on Saturday. This year's Earth Day theme focused on engaging the world to recognize our collective responsibility for the planet. For the next few minutes, we're digging into the effects of climate change, even those you may not even consider to be connected, and what you can do to help the planet, even in small changes. Let's start with a look at our air and how some communities are disproportionately impacted by pollution.
Air pollution is targeting communities of color. Let's connect the dots. A new report from the American Lung Association says despite decades of progress, nearly 120 million people still live in places with unhealthy levels of pollution. That's an improvement from recent years, as experts say ozone pollution has generally improved thanks to the Clean Air Act. But it's not looking good in Mecklenburg County. The Charlotte metro area continues to have the second poorest air quality in the Southeast. And when it comes to living with poor air quality, not everyone is treated equally. Researchers found people of color are nearly 4 times more likely than white people to live in a county with high air pollution. And that's connecting the dots.
So we know that things like air pollution are leading to global warming, but scientists are warning about the effects of climate change, like a rise in potentially fatal bacterial infections. The so-called flesh-eating bacteria can grow in warm, shallow coastal waters. Christian Benvenides has one man's story on how he survived an infection.
You're right.
Kenny Watts doesn't take for granted being here to share his story.
I still get emotional.
In August 2017, he was cooking a crab when a pinch broke the skin on his hand. Within a day or so, he knew something was wrong and called his then-girlfriend, Trisha.
Got this big blister on my hand, and by the time she got here, I was lethargic.
His organs were that quickly starting to shut down, and the infection was already spreading through his body.
It was a Vibrio vulnificus bacteria, which thrives in shallow, warm coastal waters and can infect a cut on the skin. The infection can require limb amputations, and about 1 in 5 people die, sometimes within a day or two.
I can count on my fingertips bacteria that have the high virulence that Vibrio vulnificus possesses.
Dr. Waduta Isiobu with Florida Atlantic University has studied V. vulnificus. While infections are rare, a recent UK study shows climate change threatens to increase those numbers along the U.S. East Coast and push cases further north.
It's one of many problems projected to happen because of climate change. But awareness helps people to become more prepared. So you don't go swimming if you have a wound.
Researchers say V. vulnificus is rarely detected in water colder than 55 degrees. Most infections occur in the U.S. in the warmer months, between May and October.
I was told I had 5% chance of living.
Kenny made it, but needed several surgeries.
I guess I'm one of the lucky ones because I didn't lose anything, maybe some mobility, but I didn't lose a limb or anything like that.
He was able to regain function of his hand and arm with therapy.
Another impact of climate change, fewer monarch butterflies migrating to Mexico. Officials say the number of butterflies wintering over in the mountains of central Mexico dropped 22% from the previous year. Experts say drought, severe weather, and loss of habitat, especially of the milkweed where the monarchs lay their eggs, as well as a pesticide and herbicide used, and climate change, they all pose threats to the species' migration. A massive seaweed bloom, also called a blob, is headed towards Florida and already is having some impacts on the Keys. You see, this blob is nearly 5,000 miles wide, and it's growing where this type of seaweed doesn't historically bloom.
This is a totally new oceanographic phenomenon. It wasn't until 2011 that we began to see this unusual bloom develop in the central tropical Atlantic Ocean.
So it seems to be a greater amount of sargassum than we've seen in past years. We're not really sure why, what's different this year versus past Februaries, and that's an unknown. But we think part of it might have to do with climate change. We think some of it has to do with more nutrients going into the water. As the waters are warming, it allows sargassum to grow more quickly. And so a combination of these factors seem to be leading to this higher biomass.
Experts say the blob is a habitat for many organisms like shrimp and fish and turtles, but when it gets closer to shore, it can block light from getting to the coral and impact air and water quality as it decomposes, causing that rotten egg smell, fish kills, and red tide. So what can you do to help fight climate change? The answer may be in a shorter work week. Ian Lee explains what researchers found.
Nestled in West England, between rolling hills and a babbling brook, is a workplace revolution. The company Tyler Grange helps other corporations protect the environment, but it can be a dirty business because employees often burn fuel traveling to different job sites.
Our main environmental impact is around CO2 emissions and driving cars.
Managing Director Simon Ursel says shortening the work week from 5 to just 4 days seemed like a better way to nurture nature.
And we noticed there was a 21% reduction in miles traveled. So that's a heck of a lot of reduction in CO2 emissions and emissions from vehicles, rubber emissions from your tires, maintenance.
Last year, the company joined the world's largest 4-day workweek study.
When countries have higher hours of work, they tend to have higher carbon emissions.
Researchers found commuting times in the U.S. dropped 27%. Professor Juliet Shore says the reduced hours are not a cure for climate change, but can be part of the solution.
If large numbers of people move onto 4-day schedules, I think we can expect a pretty significant carbon reduction from that.
Employees also noticed the savings.
It affects the wear and tear on your vehicle, the cost of the fuel to drive in and out of work.
What was good for the environment was also better for business.
Our clients are saving a lot of money, that's for sure, because we tend to do some miles for work and we would charge the client for those miles.
Does that make you guys more competitive then?
Yes. Yes, the 4-day work week has made us much more competitive.
Helping employees, the bottom line, and the environment, he says, is a win-win-win.
Of course, not all of us can do that, so here's something else we can all do. This deals with disposable diapers. You know, diapers wind up in landfills, while cloth diapers present a greener alternative. Companies are trying to make them more convenient for busy parents. Diaper Kind is a New York-based service delivering cloth alternatives to front door steps. For about $40 a week, the company supplies 90 organic cotton diapers to customers. The company takes the soiled diapers to wash, pH test, and inspect for stains, then returns them to be used again.
I think it's important to try and minimize our waste whenever we can. And when you think that a newborn especially, uses more than 10 diapers, I think that there's really something that we can do there to kind of do better.
According to the EPA, disposable diapers account for more than 4 million tons of municipal waste every single year. They can take up to 500 years to decompose. Well, don't forget, Earth Day is this Saturday. Think about something to help your planet that you can do right there at home.